The thought of powerful explosions occurring, lava being thrown into the air, and pyroclastic flows racing across a mountainous region of Colorado due to a volcanic eruption might sound like an absurd instance of fiction. Yet, despite common perception, a volcanic eruption is more likely than you might think within the state, as Colorado contains a single active volcano. To prove this point, I present an ominous depression in the ground which is centered northeast of the town of Dotsero and a mile north of I-70. This depression is in fact a volcanic crater referred to as a maar, which formed in a powerful explosive eruption that carved out a complex crater in the ground. It took a truly immense amount of energy to create this 2,460-foot long, 2,260-foot wide, and 250-foot deep crater. And this crater used to be significantly deeper, originally going 1,300 feet into the ground. Yet, it has been mostly filled in since its formation, which occurred only a little over 4,000 years ago in 2150 BCE. However, Dotsero crater is not the only feature that remains from this climactic eruption. There is also a 10,340-foot-long crack that runs through this crater, creating a subsided fissure up to 20 feet deep and 100 feet wide. This crack marks the maximum dimensions of the original intruding body of magma in the subsurface, which had a north-northeast orientation. As this magma intruded into the subsurface 4,150 years ago, it pushed overlying rock not only upwards but also outwards, pushing apart 310 million-year-old sedimentary rock. After thousands of earthquakes, with at least one likely reaching the threshold of a magnitude 5 event, lava finally erupted. Initially, small amounts of molten rock were weakly emitted from the entire nearly 2-mile-long fissure. However, within an hour of the eruption's onset, parts of the fissure had become clogged with lava, causing underlying molten rock to divert elsewhere to only a few select points. Whereas before, the entire fissure was erupting, now only 7 small 100-foot wide sections were ejecting molten rock in lava fountains, while also producing a distinguishing roar. Strombolian eruptive activity had commenced, and the construction of multiple cinder cones was now ongoing. While some of these cinder cones would soon after cease their activity, having not grown more than 50 feet above the ground, 2 vents remained active. As the days progressed, a blocky flow of lava advanced downhill in a narrow valley at a rate of less than 100 feet an hour, eventually reaching an alluvial plain and spreading out in the shape of a fan. The emplaced hard rock may have even temporarily diverted the Eagle River further to the south, creating violent explosions as lava fell into its mass. Eventually, the majority of lava output ceased, by which time approximately 1/3 of a square mile had been coated in the layer of lava. As a gray-coated cinder cone continued to grow, now reaching a height of 250 feet above the hillside, strong ash emissions began in the place where lava was previously the main output. Yet, something was occurring only a few hundred feet north of this cone, as, underground, there was a fault line that was heavily saturated with groundwater. Magma at depth was continuing to advance closer to the surface in some locations, and this heated overlying rocks. Eventually, the heat became so great that any groundwater present flashed to steam. The expansion of water to steam caused it to expand more than 1,000 times its original volume, placing incredible strain on the overlying rock. Eventually, the overlying rock gave way in a tremendous explosion. As large chunks of Pennsylvanian-aged sandstone were thrown several thousand feet into the surrounding landscape, a towering 4-mile-high eruption column was generated. Part of this eruption column then collapsed back to the ground and raced to the southwest at a speed of 85 miles per hour, traveling an entire mile before it ceased. Continued explosions subsequently occurred within the newly formed Dotsero crater, forming a deeper and deeper edifice. By the time the eruption had ended, the area at the very edge of the crater rim had been buried by 65 feet thick of ash and volcanic debris. In hindsight, it might initially appear that the Dotsero eruption was a simple one-off event, meaning it will never erupt again. Yet, on a hillside 7 miles to the west, there is another young-looking vent, a gray cinder cone. Known as Willow Peak, while this feature has not been dated, I estimate its age to be 80,000 years old. Using this small sample size, Dotsero might simply be the second vent in a small-scale volcanic field which seemingly erupts about once every 40,000 to 60,000 years. This means that any region within 8 miles of one of these 2 vents could be the site of a future volcanic eruption, although likely tens of thousands of years from now. As a final note, I would like to thank this channel's patrons on Patreon and channel members on YouTube.